Assad tells Syrian newspaper that the October War of Liberation showed the victory of Arab minds and will against fear. Russia says that the fanatic groups in Syria are linked to world terrorism and continue to kill and sabotage in Syria and other countries. And the report of the TV7 channel in Bulgaria asserts that the terrorists are recruiting children to kill and dismember victims in Syria. And Halakha states that the Syrian youth are the basic fence of Syria and the builders of development in their homeland. Good afternoon, welcome to News Bulletin. I'm Dania Nizam. President Bashar al-Assad asserted that the Syrian people waged the October War of Liberation with their steadfastness and support for their armed forces. On the 40th anniversary of this war, the president told the reporter of Syrian newspaper that the Syrian people continued to support their armed forces, hoping to enable them to defeat the terrorists and to restore security and peace to Syria. He added that we believe in God and in the history of our homeland. He said that Syria's approval of the Russian initiative about chemical weapons had nothing to do with the American threats. This approval was not in line with any American demands. The weapons of mass destruction that should be eliminated are the weapons of extremist terrorism. On the occasion of the anniversary of the October War of Liberation, the temporary Egyptian president asserted that the victory of October continued to be the symbol of pride and dignity for Egypt and the Arab nation. He added that this occasion coincides with the support of the Egyptian people to their constitution. He stressed the necessity of defeating terrorism and blind violence through uprooting them from the Egyptian soil. In Aleppo, a Syrian Arab army unit foiled an attempt by terrorists to infiltrate into the Carlton Hotel in the Old City, killing and wounding many of them. In another clash with our soldiers, 3 terrorists were killed and several others wounded in the quarter of Salah ad-Din. Our army also killed and wounded many terrorists in the industrial city and nearby villages. The army also destroyed terrorist hideouts near the central jail, Al-Kindi Hospital, and nearby villages. In the northern countryside of Hama Governorate, the Syrian Arab army units carried out an operation against the armed terrorist groups near Kafra village. Units of the Syrian army continued their operations of chasing terrorist gangs in Homs countryside, killing and wounding many of them and destroying the tools of their crimes. The Syrian Arab army also destroyed a terrorist hideout that was used to attack our citizens in Hosh al-Talib near Al-Rasdan. The source added that the terrorists fired a number of rockets on the Homs headquarters, hitting a school, the building, the Homs Health Department and housing quarters, causing material damage. Units of the Syrian Arab army restored security and stability to the village of Al-Mitras near Tel Kalach. An official source said that 43 wanted terrorists surrendered themselves with their weapons in order to settle their situation. The child Shaban Abdullah al-Hamidi from Aleppo province narrated the details of his recruitment in the so-called Ahfad al-Rasul terrorist group by his uncle Yahya Aziz to commit terrorist crimes. In his confessions, which were aired on the Syrian TV, Hamida said, "My uncle asked me to join the so-called Forgive Me Father group, which is affiliated to Ahfad al-Rasul, and offered me an amount of money and told me he would buy me a gun to show off to my friends." He added that he hunted soldiers and civilians alike, while his uncle notified him of the persons who would cross by and whom he should not hunt, as they were affiliated with Ahfad al-Rasul. "I've killed some 10 soldiers, 13 civilians and 9 gunmen, and I got used to killing any person without feelings," the child said. The Bulgarian 7th TV channel sent its reporter Dilyana Getancheva with a photographer to Syria. They returned with the truth that has been absent from the media channels of deception. She spoke about the truth which she witnessed with her own eyes. She asserted that the terrorist gangs recruited children, raped women and beheaded civilian citizens in large numbers. She asserted that the town of Malula in the Damascus countryside was full of snipers who belong to the so-called Jabhat al-Nusra. They attack historical churches and places of worship. However, the Syrian army defeated these gangs. The reporter asserted that more than 700,000 people were displaced in this area, while many of them were killed and their houses destroyed at the hands of these fanatics. She interviewed one of the leaders of these gangs who claimed that they came to defend Islam in Syria and that they received financial support from Saudi Arabia and Qatar and some states in the European Union. The reporter wondered whether it was possible in the 21st century that the world community should be silent about those who eat the hearts of human beings and cut their heads off. The Russian Foreign Ministry asserted that many fanatical groups in Syria are linked to world terrorism and are ready to continue to murder and sabotage not only in Syria but in other countries under the pretext of setting up a world caliphate. These fanatic terrorists are supported by the West, which supplies them with weapons. Russian Foreign Ministry said that the final statement of the recent summit of the G8 countries called upon the Syrian government and opposition to exert efforts to kick the terrorists out of the country altogether. The Washington Post published an article by David Ignatius warning against the financial support for the terrorists by Qatar and Saudi Arabia. He likened the support to a balloon filled with poison. The writer said there were hundreds of British, French, Australian and Saudi terrorists in Syria. This is a very dangerous situation. The writer said that bringing stability to Syria would come through the Geneva Conference. Leaving this very sensitive situation to the Saudi and Qatari money would be madness. The New York Times also published an article asserting that supporting the fanatic terrorists in Syria has disrupted stability. Al-Qaeda branch in Syria was trying to carry out its own agenda to set up a jihadi Islamic State. The British paper The Daily Telegraph quoted the former leader of the Liberal Democrats, Lord Paddy Ashdown, as saying that 3,500 tons of weapons were shipped from Croatia with the assistance of the CIA, financed by Qatar and Saudi Arabia, to the jihadi terrorist groups in Syria. Receiving a youth delegation representing the Syrian Youth Club in Aleppo, Prime Minister Wael Halaqi asserted that Syrian educated young men who are committed to their national causes are actually the pillars of the construction process in Syria. The Prime Minister underlined that the Syrian youth who enjoy enlightened way of thinking are confronting the Takfiri way of thinking, which is actually foreign and infiltrating across the borders. Al-Halaqi referred to the role of the civil society in triggering the full capacities of the people in Syria and in rejecting violence and calling for tolerance and love. Al-Halaqi also asserted the government's keenness in all the governorates and in Aleppo particularly to restore security and stability and to provide the living needs for the citizens. The youth delegation in turn explained the humanitarian tasks that are being carried out in Aleppo in addition to the attempts of activating the economy and fighting corruption. A painting and arts exhibition was held by a group of displaced children who reside in 20 temporary residential centers in Syria. The exhibition included a large number of paintings and handmade works of art in which the children expressed their feelings of pain, happiness and hope, in addition to their love of nature that they enjoy in their country. Minister of Culture Dr. Lubana Shawih asserted the ministry's keenness to hold exhibitions and cultural activities in the temporary sheltering centres in order to encourage innovation. The minister also said that the Directorate of the Child's Culture cooperates with the UNICEF to alleviate the suffering of children during their current crisis. Minister of Social Affairs Kinder Shamad discussed with the Subcommittee for Relief in Homs the possibility of increasing the governorate's share of assistance. Minister Shamad referred to the necessity of supporting the temporary sheltering centres and increasing the assistance shares given to the Syrian Arab Red Crescent, being the ministry's main partner in providing assistance. The minister also discussed coordination with the representatives of the UN offices in Homs to provide the needs of the citizens according to a clear plan. The minister concluded her tour in Homs by visiting a temporary residential centre where she was briefed on the needed services and assistance. With this, we conclude our news for today. Thank you for watching us. For more news and details about Syria and the region, you can view our bulletin again on our website in English, syriaonline.sy. God bless you and long live Syria. After the break, over to Vani with our economic and business news.
Good afternoon. The Director General of Popular Credit Bank asserted that the bank is currently studying the possibility of granting loans for the people with limited income according to specified rates, which could be increased gradually. First, loans that don't exceed 200,000 Syrian pounds would be granted to those who need them the most. Then the limit would be raised to 400,000 Syrian pounds so that as many people as possible would benefit from them, pointing out that the previous limit was 1 million Syrian pounds. The Olive Office at the Ministry of Agriculture pointed to a study that is being carried out about subsidizing the farmers regarding products and equipment. 20,000 tons of olive oil have been exported since the beginning of the year. The ministry estimates Syria's production of olive to be 950,000 tons. The Water Resources Directorate in Daraa Governorate asserted that the technicians at the Investment and Resources Department have been following up the distribution of irrigating water on the agricultural lands in the governorate. They have repaired the damages in the main canals and irrigation grids. And now over to some main currencies exchange rates according to the bulletin of the Central Bank of Syria. With this, we conclude our news. Thank you for watching and goodbye.